Welcome to the Larry Kreider's Leadership Podcast. Larry is the author of over 40 books, the founder of Dove International, a worldwide family of churches and ministries in 6 continents, and has over 50 years of leadership experience. He and his guests will share inspirational leadership insights from their journey with God. These insights, gleaned from serving leaders in many nations, will transform your life and leadership. For more information on Larry's books and resources, visit LarryKreider.com.
Welcome to the Larry Kreider Leadership Podcast. Larry Kreider here with me in the studio today. This is going to be a special time. Is Connie Dienner back again because of your brand new book, From Barn to Stage. Connie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Larry. It's really great to be here.
Well, I've got some great questions for you. And I read your book cover to cover. It's a great book. You're very vulnerable. You share your life. And you read through this and I think, man, this just gives so much hope to so many people who read this. You know, and there's this girl who was out in the pig pen, her dad's pig pen years ago.
True.
And God's using you today with Cavod, with theaters. And it's just amazing. So welcome. So for those, in this region, everybody knows about Cavod. But for those who don't know, what is Cavod? Just talk to us about that.
Sure, Larry. Well, Cavod means the glory of God in Hebrew.
Right.
And that this is our 20th year anniversary, by the way. And so what we had wanted to do was to have something where you could declare God's goodness and who He is, and it means His presence, His glory, and we wanted to bring that to the arts without it sounding really religious or would turn off people that don't know Jesus. So every time you're saying Cavod, you're speaking that in.
So this is you do productions.
We do,
and you train artists for the future. Talk about that.
So we have classes over 120 a week.
120 a week.
In 3 different buildings, 2 locations, but 3 buildings.
All here in the greater Lancaster County area?
Yes. Wow. And about 1,250 enrollments now.
1,250?
Yes, right. And we give classes in all style of dance, all different ages, starting at like 3 years old and going to adult. And we do private music and guitar, piano, voice lessons. We have theater classes, and then we have theater shows as well. So we have a theater right there that seats 200, and we do all kinds of shows throughout the year.
You guys did the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Laverne and I saw that. It was amazing. It was just so good. So, we've had you on before. You talked a little bit about things you learned in leadership over the years, but I wanted to really focus on a lot of things that you shared in your book. It's just a great book. And by the way, anybody, if you're interested in this book, and I encourage you to buy this book and read it cover to cover. It's Connie's life, her husband Dave's life, and just how God has used you powerfully over these last 20 plus years. I read more than 20, but 20 years with Cavod.
Sure.
So tell us, why did you write the book?
Well, really, it was an encouragement that I had gotten from my sponsors that were saying, you're telling the story, you should put this in a book.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time at first, it's not that big of a deal. And they're like, you really should do this. And so really what it's turned out to be is just giving hope to the average person. I am no one special. I did okay in school, but it's not like I'm super educated.
Right.
And just seeing that if I can do it, hopefully you have a dream that God's called you to, that you would be encouraged, that you can do whatever He's asked you to do.
Again, I read it cover to cover. You've done that well in the book. Let's just talk about in the beginning. You opened the book with Christmas Eve, 1989. At that point of your lives, what was going on? Yeah,
so we had 2 children. We have 3, but we had 2 at that point in time. And we were living in New Jersey. We had moved down there to help out with ministry in a church and doing worship leading and so forth. Dave had a fairly large business, drywall business down there. And we were really experiencing difficulties with someone owing us over $300,000. And we had to let go of our home. Wow. And so it was 2 days after that Christmas Eve, we were moving in with friends just because we were losing everything pretty much. Yeah. And so that was a really hard time for me, for all of us. And our children didn't know anything different because the church had gone together and bought Christmas presents for everyone. And but to me, it was just, I knew what was up ahead. And my mom was living with us, and she had to live with my brother. And so we moved in with friends from church for 4 or 5 months just to recoup. And
so you felt like you're losing everything.
Right.
Wow.
So this guy didn't pay us, and we took him to court, and it didn't, there were so many different liens against ahead of us.
Right.
And so through all of that, we lost everything, even the deposit my mom had made on our home. And Dave went through a pretty deep depression over that, and just figuring it out.
Your vulnerability is so important here, because people come to your theater and they see your shows and see the amazing things God's doing through you, and they would have no idea you went through these kinds of things. It gives such hope.
Yes.
So regardless of where someone's at in their life now, God's got a plan.
Absolutely.
He's got a way out.
And you can recover from bankruptcy. I'm here to prove it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it really feels like, especially from my background, being raised very, very strict Mennonite, that you just don't do that.
Yeah.
But we had no way out, and the Lord really used that. It's more details in my book, but it really used that to really create something in us and to fine tune us. I really think.
So many, many years before that, you were dancing with pigs.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
Your dad was a farmer, had pigs.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that season of your life, and how that prepared you for now.
Yes. So I grew up in Indiana on a big pig farm, southern Indiana, like really near Kentucky, if you can just imagine the hills and back gravel roads in some places, and far away from what I thought was any human being, because grew up in a family of 4, and my older brothers and my sister, I'm way behind them, almost grew up as an only child. And so really feel, and I always would beat to a different drum, because they were very, they did what my parents said. And not that I was rebellious, but I was just singing and talking, and I was very, very talkative. And I really don't think my dad had any clue what to do with me.
You're outside the box, right?
I was outside the box. They were all in, and I was somewhere around on the outside. And so I wasn't allowed to do anything as far as in school with theater or anything. And so I had an hour's worth of chores every night, 1,000 pigs we had on this big pig farm.
1,000 pigs.
Right. And so I'm just like, okay, always had a positive attitude. And I would sing to them, and they would stop and stare at me and listen. And so I had a big audience. And that's how I cut my teeth kind of in the arts. And I would sing these songs, give me oil in my lamp, keep me burning. He paid a debt, he did not, those kinds of things. And they didn't care what song it was. They would just stop, and because they knew I was there to feed them. And I would cry. I was very lonely as a child, and I thought I would never, ever get out of those hills of Indiana, back in the sticks where nowhere land.
Somewhere in the midst of this whole process, you learned the reality that God loved you unconditionally.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So
why is that so important to you?
Yeah. And I think that is why my passion for today, after I went through writing the book, I really realized why that is such a huge value for me.
Right.
And I think growing up, I had a very, very strict father, and went through a really hard time with him, of him not understanding me. And I never walked away from the Lord, but I was just one of those kids that questioned everything, and would get spanked for talking too much. And so I did not feel valued as a child from my father. My mom, I did. And so growing up with that, and then going to high school, and finally, after I begged and begged and begged and begged, they had decided to let me be in a show.
Okay.
And so my theater teacher took me under his wing, and to everyone's surprise, I was pretty good on stage. And so I got different roles, and I could let my hair down, and I could wear makeup. And this teacher...
How old were you when this happened?
I started when I was in 8th grade, about 14.
Sure.
Then through high school, I did shows, and my teacher would just give me hard things and funny things, and just to bring out in me. He really believed in me. He didn't care about my dress or what I looked like, because I was the only Mennonite girl in a high school of 600 students.
Wow.
And so back then there was jeans, and I was the only one in the dress. I can remember that very clearly. But so he believed in me, and when I got on stage, I could be someone different. And I don't know, all of a sudden, I started to find out who I was. And I just feel like there's so many people that have misplaced identity where they don't know the love of Jesus. And then from there, I was able to open up and transfer, really, how did God make me? And who, what is his purpose for my life? And that's where I really feel like that is the foundation of just fulfilling the call that God has on your life your identity.
Exactly. Now, in the book, you talk a lot about the love of your life, Dave, obviously. And so how are the two of you different? And how do you work together effectively? Because I've known Dave for years, I've known you for years, and you're wired very differently. So how does that work?
We are so wired differently. It didn't work for a while at the beginning, mainly because of me, to be honest. So Dave is very laid back in some ways, but he has a very strong, you don't mess with, he's stubborn underneath it all.
Yeah.
But he really has a strong identity, knows who he is.
Sure.
Where in his laid backness, my outgoing, I thought as a woman, I really hated who I was because I'm so outgoing, I'm so talkative.
Right.
And he adored that in me. That's why he married me.
Right.
And I was attracted to his, just his sweetness. He's such a sweet, sweet man.
Yeah.
And yet I fought that, feeling like I was the one that needed to be quiet. And that was impossible. And so for a long time, it was hard for me with my identity, was saying, why, God, did you make me this way? Why, as a woman, like I shouldn't have a voice? Because that's kind of how I grew up. Yeah. And it was so hard. And honestly, we've been with Dove now for over 10 years. And when I came to Dove is when I really found out that my voice is really important. And Dave kept saying, no, it's on your heart. You do it. I'm here to support you. No, I don't have to be out front. Right. And honestly, I always say he's my kite string because I'm out here somewhere he is, just keeps me grounded. And I've learned to listen to what he says and to say, okay, because I'll do 2,500 things a week and then I'm exhausted. And he'll say, no, I've learned to submit my schedule to him. Right. No, I don't think, just be careful with that. And he's just an encourager. Yeah, he is. He's amazing. And he just loves the fact that I'm out front. And he's very secure and doesn't even want to be. And once we started embracing that and getting that correct, and I started to find my voice and who I was.
So good.
It just, all of a sudden, we are so happier than ever being married. It's just so exciting when you find out your identity and how God wired you and embrace that and embrace that in each other.
Yeah, you're like Priscilla and Aquila in the Bible. Really, that's what's going on. So what do you tell someone who has a vision in their heart, like you did, for the arts or for theater or for whatever, something that seems way out there, beyond what they would think they have the ability to do? It seems impossible. They think it could never happen. What do you tell someone like?
Yes.
Because you've been there.
I have been. And actually, when I had surrendered everything and I was done with the arts, it was when my kids were smaller and I just felt like everyone they were attracted by the shows I was putting on at church. And they wanted it to be bigger and better. And I was done. I said, this is it. There was a lot of things going on. A church split at that point back years ago. And I said, Lord, I just surrendered it to God. I said, God, I think it first takes surrender.
Okay.
And you lay it down and you say, God, if this is truly you, then you open the doors that no man can open. You shut doors that no man can open. That's a really favorite scripture of mine. And so just walking carefully, I laid it all down. And then one day, I got a prophetic word that I was going to open up the School of Arts. And so God, and it's more in detail in my book.
A lot.
But it was like a light bulb went on. And at the same time, I was laying it before the Lord because it was a word from a man. At the same time, I knew God, it just hit me right here. Sure. And I think I started small. Like a lot of times I feel like people have this big vision. They're going to do this. And they don't do the little things first to build on the bigger things. And then they just want the big, and they're not willing to pay the price.
Right. And God builds things in us as we do the small things that prepares us for the next level, and the next level, and the next level.
Oh, my goodness. 20 years ago when I started Cavod, I'm almost embarrassed of how little I really did know. And not that I have arrived, but it's been a journey. And God uses even the adversities that we have make us stronger. And you learn and you grow. But I would say start with submitting it to the Lord, surrendering, and then start with the little things. What has God put in your hand right now?
It's good. Mm-hmm. Now, in light of all this, eventually Cavod grew. Mm-hmm. And there's a need for finance, a need for fundraising. And I know that wasn't your cup of tea necessarily, at least not in the early days. And so talk to us about that. What did that look like? Or even what does it look like now? Because for any vision to be fulfilled, in most cases, there needs to be finance to help see that happen.
Sure. Actually, when I really figured it out, I started Cavod as a nonprofit because I didn't want to take it for myself. Okay. It's ran by a board. If I would walk away tomorrow, I would walk away with nothing. I wanted on purpose to set it up like that. Right. So, but the Lord didn't tell me that you needed to raise funds at a nonprofit. And so when we were struggling, I was really upset with the Lord when I met with somebody who had done this before, and they're like, "Oh, you're not raising funds?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't know I had to do that." And so I felt like the Lord tricked me because I really don't enjoy that at all. Right. And then I had a coach say to me that if you do not embrace that part, you're going to lose Cavod because you're so afraid to step out and share your heart. And so it's been a journey, and I've embraced it. Okay. And I would say the biggest and I raised right now, last year I think it was $500,000. This year was $330,000. Because we had a building project going on. Sure. And I would just say, just make friends with people. Good. And don't, just build relationships. Right. And these donors of mine now have become really good friends and supporters. Beautiful. And they're calling me and say, okay, what's your next event? What do you what do you need funds for? But it starts with the relationships, and take the money out of your mind. And it's hard when you need that money next week. Yes. But take it out of your mind and just say, I am going to share my vision and my passion with the community. Find your why and share your why you're doing this and how God has called you, and then let the results up to the Lord. And you will be amazed as you lay that down instead of being so worried how to ask, what do I do? I can't ask for that. Oh, this person's got money, this one doesn't. Just lay it down and share the vision with whoever, and make sure you say, this is our need, but however God leads you.
That's so good. Yeah. I had a wise man who did a lot of fundraising one day years back, and I was speaking at his school, and he said, Larry, here's what I learned about fundraising. He said, you'll like this. He said, I learned that if I ask for money, people give me advice. But if I ask for advice, they give me money.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you're talking about you build a relationship, you share the needs that are there, and out of that then comes the finance. That's
and the advice that I've gotten from some of my very successful people is where I'm at today. Exactly. Is they give me such valuable things because a lot of times they've been there already.
Sure. But Laverne, I've watched you over the years and your humility and just sharing your life and sharing the vision God's given you and the way you've done that. I can see what God's blessed you. So we see the blessing of God on you. So how's your leadership role at Cavod changed over the years?
Yeah, drastically. At first I did everything.
You did everything, right? Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then as we just began to grow, I couldn't do it anymore. And so you have to learn to delegate. And I think and it was trial and error to getting the right people on the bus, the right seat on the bus. Oh, yeah. So and at first, I would hire just anyone. And then I realized, okay, that's not working. And so, but learning to be able to believe in people and to let them run. It's said, and I believe it, that so many entrepreneurs, it's really hard for them if they've started something to be able to let go and trust other people. And I had a very wise coach that said, trust comes first. They don't have to prove themselves. Why are you making your staff prove themselves? Because you first start with trust and you let them go. Everyone wants to do a good job, and I think that's really hard for entrepreneurs sometimes to let go. But I would say that's where it's changed, is being able to believe in other people and let them do things.
Yeah, you've done that so well. You're now in multiple locations. You guys are taking mission trips throughout the world. Talk about that. You're in a couple of different locations, how that happened. And then I know you got some amazing stories on what's happened in different parts of the world as Cavod Missions has done some amazing things. So just tell us a few things about that.
Okay. So as far as the different locations, I really wasn't not looking for that. I have to say, I just was trusting God, like, okay, we're growing here. What are we going to do? And the Lord would open the door. I would see a building and I would just, always driving, always thinking, okay, God, is there something here for me? No, not here. Was there something over? No. And we would try different things. We thought we were going to be in this big retirement center at one point, and that looked great. And the Lord closed that door. But you can't get frustrated when the Lord.
You take steps of faith and see if God opens the door, right?
And if He closes it, it's not the end of the world. It means I look back and I'm so happy we were in those spaces. And then all of a sudden, like in Mannheim, one of the building managers there called me and said, I know the ministry and I really feel like you should be here. And it was November of 2020. And I'm like, I have no interest right now in starting another location. I'm just trying to get through COVID.
Right.
And so the Lord opened the door, and we started small there. We started with one studio, and then we grew to the next year. And then all of a sudden we were like maxed out there, and the Lord opened up the door for 6,000 square feet, and we remodeled that. And it's really one step at a time. You don't go, I don't feel for me, I don't go into a new location and put thousands of dollars in. I start small. I mean, that's how it's worked.
That's key.
And just, and be okay with that. And then when that starts to grow, or it's not a whole lot of risk when you start small. And then you can, if it doesn't work, you've learned something, and you go to another location. That's how I feel.
Yeah. When you started your school and training in arts and theater and all that, like approximately how many students were there in the beginning?
25.
25, and now it's 1,250.
We have 1,250 enrollments. Okay. And some kids or adults take more than one class.
Okay, gotcha. But is that
so it's
many
like 600 and some enrollments. But that doesn't count our theater and all of our theater classes. And there's so many people in and out. But as far as missions, we have done that from day one. In fact, before Cavod, I was taking youth to Amsterdam and to different mission trips.
Right.
And we try to go every year to an international international location. And so Dove has really opened up a lot of doors for us. I think we could go all summer long. We try to go in the summer. I get a lot of invitations, but we have really spread our wings in South Africa, Cape Town. And I really believe and I can say this pretty much with confidence now, not just a dream, that probably in the next 3 years, we'll have a Cavod over there.
That'd be awesome.
And we do arts camps. That's been our kind of our niche. And we go in and I take a bunch of teachers. Like we're going this summer to Kenya. We added Kenya and then to Victory School there. And now we're going to South Africa. We're going to be gone 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
And so I take a team, like we have 17, and we teach all different classes and dance and theater and music. And then we share the love of Jesus. So they're allowed to take, workshops, and we just have so much fun with them. And it's to underprivileged kids. As some of them are pastors, some of them are pastors' children, or some of them are from gangs in South Africa. And it just the arts just open up the doors so much to be able to share the gospel.
So good,
that's been wonderful.
Yeah, so good. For everyone listening today, this book, From Barn to Stage, is an amazing book. I highly recommend it. And if you live in the Lancaster County area and you get by Cavod sometime in New Holland, you can stop and
or
get
Mannheim.
one there. Or Mannheim, different locations. But obviously Amazon, you pick up an Amazon. Information on that is on the show notes. In fact, you want to know more about Cavod, we'll make sure that's on the show notes. You can pick that up from there. Now, as I read through this book, it became clear to me that you have learned to enjoy the journey. That became clear as I read through this amazing book. And you share the ups, downs, the ins, outs. You're real. It's so good. Explain that to us.
Oh, yeah. It's been a journey. Yeah. Some of it I enjoyed and some of it I didn't.
Right.
But just seeing God bring so many different families and people into my life, to our lives, and to see them grow, and just to see what God can do, because isn't that ultimately why we're doing this, is to build the kingdom of God, whatever it might be that you're doing or what God's called you to do. None of us, I don't feel like I'm not here for myself. I'm here to build the kingdom. And when you start to see that happening, that you really had nothing to do with it. You were just the facilitator.
Right.
And you see people coming in, and you see a Jewish girl that comes in and accepts Jesus, and her family is wrecked for Jesus. And you see, people coming to the Lord. You see families that are affected by just simply having an excellent dance class and the teacher loving on them. That's just one example. But we have many, many like that. And I think that is what has been so rewarding for me, and enjoyed seeing people being celebrated and loved, and seeing what God can do, and not feeling so responsible. This is God's work. This is not me. And so as you grow and as you let it go, and you grow and you let it go, and you watch God work, you are just on your face saying, God, this is only through you could I do this. And I think that has helped me to enjoy and embrace the journey. And sometimes if I look back on it, if anybody's starting out, I wish I would have enjoyed it more. I'm a pretty intense person. and if I could just be like my hubby a little more and just enjoy it. But I've learned a lot through him of just trusting God and just enjoy the journey.
Well, Laverne and I have watched you and your hubby, for many, many years, become dear friends, and just seeing what God has done through you has been the most amazing thing. And you have so much to offer. And again, I want to recommend this book. Everyone listening, From Barn, remember the pigs? From Barn to Stage. And I don't even know if you know this, but people know me as a former chicken farmer.
Yes,
I was
do
also
know.
A pig farmer.
Yeah.
So I understand some of your pig stories. Only I didn't sing to my pigs, so I missed that part of the journey.
Well, a really funny story, really quick, is that when I named that book. In fact, our kids were involved in helping me From Barn to Stage. I was thinking of the barn growing up, but Cavod started in a barn.
That's true.
And so it had a double meaning. Yeah.
That is really cool. Anything else that you want to share regarding what you learned about leadership over the years, or anything else you want to share? This has been refreshing, Connie. Yeah,
I think really one key, if I could say what is one takeaway for me, and I look back on our lives over the years of ministry, is really that tops everything, I think, is to never, ever take offense.
Oh, that's good.
Because there are so many opportunities, and as you have different employees, and not everybody believes in you, or you have to make the hard decisions. You have to have critical conversations. And that was hard for me at first, but just being willing to not take offense. And when people come against you, you're willing to forgive. And maybe, you're right, but you have no right to take offense. And that's been a key for us.
That is a key, regardless of the kind of life we're called, what we're called to do in life. That's a key, being free from offense. And the scripture, in Hebrews talks about the importance of us not doing anything at all that would, cause offense, and receive grace and give grace and pour out grace.
I've learned that from you and Laverne, both of you. It's just rhythms of grace is really where it's at.
Very important.
Walking in that.
Yeah.
And Psalms 27 is really, you can read that.
Close with this.
But just says that this is kind of like my life scripture, and I'm signing all my books with this. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? And when the wicked come against me to eat up my flesh, the enemies and foes, they stumbled and fell. Though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. And though war may come against me, in this one thing I'm confident. One thing I have desired of the Lord, and that I will seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord.
Beautiful.
And I really feel like when you're starting something new, we think, if we have a fear, then we're not trusting God. But it doesn't come without a sense of like, I can't do this, which can bring fear, and it's okay. But the Lord says, just trust me. And if we can if our desire is to behold his beauty, and we keep that in the right perspective as we're working so hard, it really does make a difference. And giving it back to the Lord.
Connie, this was refreshing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Everyone listening in, From Barn to Stage, Connie Dienner. Make sure you get your copy. Get it on the internet, obviously, through Amazon or wherever you buy books. And also check out the show notes. All the information is there about Cavod and Connie and all that God's doing through you. So thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Larry. This has been fun.
It has been fun. And so check out Cavod. And also, if you're in the greater Lancaster area and you have family members that would like to be trained in dance and the arts, here's Cavod's the place to go. So God bless you, Connie. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, this is the Larry Kreider Leadership Podcast, where we learn these small truths often. If we apply them properly, make a huge difference in our lives and the lives of those we serve.
I do.
So,
thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Larry Kreider's Leadership Podcast. If you want more information about any of Larry's books, daily devotionals, small group resources, or any other teachings, go to larrykreider.com.